This is the review for Algebra 1, Test 18. It's due Friday, May 15th. This Friday, May 15th. The review and the test are both due Friday, May 15th. So let's get started. This is your last test. So if you're wanting to bring your grade up, you need to do it here on this last test. And then you'll have another lesson due on that Tuesday, not this coming Tuesday, but the next Tuesday, like Tuesday of the last week of school. So if you're wanting to bring your grade up, you need to work hard on those assignments. You need to work hard on this test. Make sure you use the review on the test. You've always been able to use the reviews on the test. So make sure you use the review on the test to do a good job and bring your grade up. Okay, so number 1, let's see, we've got x squared over 8x plus 5x squared over 8x. So since our denominators are the same, we go ahead and add the numerators. That's 6x squared because 1, there's a 1 here in front of this x squared, and 5 is 6 over 8x. Then we'll reduce. 6 and 8, you can take a 2 out. That leaves 3, 4. And then 8 goes into x squared and leaves an x. So 3x over 4, and that x stays in the numerator. So make sure you leave it in the numerator. Then on number 2, you're multiplying, but really what we're going to do first before we multiply is we're going to cancel. We're going to cancel things out first on this before we multiply. So anything on the top that's like the bottom, you can cancel. For example, this y squared and y squared will cancel out, okay? If I take this x and x cubed together, that's an x to the 4th, which would cancel that x to the 4th. This y would come out of y to the 4th and leave a y cubed on the bottom. So I don't have any other variables on the top. So now I look at my numbers. 7 comes out of 21 and leaves a 3. 5 comes out of 10 and leaves a 2. So then nothing's left on the top, and this is where you'll have to be careful. You've got to put a 1 there. If everything on the top goes away, you've got to put a 1. Now on the bottom, we've got a 2, a 3, an x squared, and a y cubed left. So 6 x squared y cubed should be your answer on number 2. Number 3, you've seen this before, these inequalities. Some of you are forgetting to graph them, which you're missing them. I'm not even just counting 2 points off. I'm just counting them wrong because you should follow your reviews. Like you need to take your review and have it with you right beside you as you're working the test. So on this, I'm dividing by a negative, so it means I flip my inequality, and I'm told to graph it. So that means I graph it. Closed circle, shading to the left. Make sure you put the number on your graph or you're going to miss it, okay? So I'm telling you right now what I'm looking for, okay? Then number 4 is another solving and graphing an inequality. It's got a little more involved with it. You've got to combine like terms. So let's see, we're going to combine this and get negative 13 less than negative 2x minus 19. Add 19 to both sides, so that's 6 less than negative 2x. Divide by a negative 2, which means we flip the inequality. So now it is negative 3 greater than x, which means x is less than 3. That means you could write it this way. X is less than 3. So we shade to the left with the negative 3 on the graph. Make sure you put the negative 3 on your number line. So that's number 4. Number 5, again, solving another inequality. You just have more to do. You've got to distribute. So this would be 2x minus 4 minus 2x greater than negative 8 plus 8x plus 2. When I distribute that negative 2, I'm not distributing the 8, and I'm not adding these first and getting negative 10. I'm leaving the negative 8 alone. That's why I have a negative 8 right here. And then negative 2 times negative 4x is positive 8x, and negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So then, let's see. This is a 2x minus 4 minus 2x. So that's just going to leave me a minus 4 because those cancel, 2x minus 2x. Then over here, we would get an 8x minus 4 because negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. Negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. Add 4 to both sides. So that's going to give me a 0 greater than 8x. And see, some of y'all think you're done. Like some of y'all put no solution. You can't do that. 0 is a regular number. If x canceled, like if x had a 0 right beside it, then yes, you would have something like no solution or all reals or something like that. But we still have a number by x. It's not a 0. We just have a 0 over here. And 0 divided by 8 is 0, not 8. I'm not dividing by a negative, so I don't flip it. That means x could be less than 0, open circle on 0, shading to the left. So be careful with this when you get a 0 like that. And be careful, 0 divided by 8 is 0. It's not 0 over 8, it's not 8, it's 0. So make sure you do that. Be careful with that. Then let's see, number 6. You're trying to decide if number 6 is the difference of two squares. So it's 5x squared minus 75. The way it's written, it is not the difference of two squares. So we could take a 5 out and see what happens. X squared minus 15. That's not the difference of two squares because 15 doesn't have a square root. So not difference of two squares. Remember, these both have to have perfect square roots, and you can only have 2 of them, and you've got to have a subtraction sign. So that's why I tried to take the 5 out to see what I had left, but I still have something there that doesn't have a square root. So that's not the difference of two squares, so you just leave it alone. Then let's see, number 7, we want to write the compound inequality and then graph it. So we want it to represent all the numbers that are less than -3, or, that's a disjunction, greater than 3. So there's your inequality. To graph it, -3, open circle, shading to the left, +3, open circle, shading to the right. Then number 8, you're trying to find the median with that stem and leaf chart. So median, actually you want the median, the mode, the range, and the relative frequency. So remember, the median is the middle number. We've talked about that before. We've actually talked about this whole thing before. Finding the median, not the mean, the median. You want the middle number. So you're going to count from the first number in, you're going to count from the last number in. It looks like there's 20 total. So the median, the middle number, it looks like you have 2 middle numbers. It looks like you have 2 2s, 2 32s actually. So you have 32 and 32 because you have 2 2s there. That's 64 divided by 2 is 32. So if you have 2 middle numbers, you add them and divide by 2. If you have 1 middle number, you just write it down. Then your mode is the one that appears most, which is also 32 because it looks like there's 3 32s, actually 4 32s. Remember how to read this. This is 16, 17, 19, 21, 22, 24, 24, 26, 27, 32, 32, 32, 32, 34, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, and then 42. So when I talk about counting in for the median, I count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I stop at 10 because I know there's 20 total. I've already counted the leaves and know there's 20 total. So then I come down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's why there's those 2 2s, which again, it's 32 and 32. It's not 2 and 2. You don't add 2 plus 2 and get 4 and divide by 2. You don't do that. You do 32 plus 32 divided by 2 and get 32. So your middle number, your median is 32. Your mode is 32 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 32s. Then your range, you take your biggest one, which is 42, minus your smallest one, which is 16. So on range, you do 42 minus 16, which is 26. Then your relative frequency of 36, you look for how many 36s there are. Well, here's my 30, there's my 6, there's one of them. 36, there's 1 out of 20, because again, I already counted the leaves and there were 20. So my relative frequency is 1 out of 20 for 36, because there's only one. It's like a probability, it's part to total. So there's 136 out of a total of 20, so my relative frequency is 1 over 20. Do not put a decimal on that, leave it as a fraction. Okay, then number 9, we've talked about this stuff recently. So if you look at this, because we want the vertex, we want the maximum or minimum, and then we want the domain and range of the function. So my vertex, all I have to do is look at the graph. You could figure it out with a negative b over 2a like I showed you last week, I think, but you don't have to. Just look at what that point is. Right 2 up 3. So my vertex is 2, 3. Okay? Does it have a maximum or a minimum? Well, does it top out or does it bottom out? It tops out, so that's a maximum. So it has a maximum of y equals 3 because that's the y coordinate of the vertex. Then it doesn't ask about the axis of symmetry, but you could go ahead and put the axis of symmetry. It's x equals 2. Then we're asked for the domain. Well, the domain for any parabola is all reals. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's a parabola, it's all reals. The range comes from whether it tops out or bottoms out, which this tops out. So that means my y is all below that maximum of y equals 3. So since it's all below, it'd be y less than or equal to 3. Okay? Now, if this were to turn over, if this parabola, so this is just another option, if this parabola and say the vertex was negative 1, 2, okay, that's my vertex. So it bottoms out at that, okay? So this is a minimum of y equals 2. My domain is still all reals, doesn't change. The range, though, would be y greater than or equal to 2 because y is up. All the y values are above that minimum of 2. It's a minimum of 2. That means all the other y's have to be greater than or equal to 2, okay? And then your axis of symmetry here would be x equals negative 1 because you get that from the vertex. But again, getting the vertex on this and on the test, look at the graph. Count. Right 2, up 3. That's your vertex. And then you get the other stuff from there. And the domain is always all reals. The range is less than or equal to if it's a maximum. It's greater than or equal to if it's a minimum. So that's explanation for number 9. Then on number 10, we're setting up two equations because we're looking for two unknowns. So we're going to use something like elimination. So we got the sum of Blake's and Kendall's age is 15. 4 times Blake's age minus 2 times Kendall's age is 6. We want to know how old Blake and Kendall are now and then how old they'll be in 10 years. Well, the 10 years thing is easy. We'll just add 10 once we find it. So what I would do here, this is the way they set up. The sum of their ages is 15. 4 times Blake's age minus 2 times Kendall's age is 6. So then multiply by 2. So 2b plus 2k equals 30. So my k's cancel. I get 6b equals 36. Divide by 6. Blake is 6 right now. In 10 years, he'll be 16. So we've got his two ages. Now, if Blake is 6, so 6 plus k equals 15, I just plugged it into that top one. So subtract 6. So that means Kendall is 9. In 10 years, she'll be 19. So there's 4 different answers there. Their ages now, their ages in 10 years. Then let's see, number 11, we're solving by elimination also. Number 11 has negative 4x plus 4y equals 0 and negative 3x minus y equals 4. Since these two they already have opposite signs, I'm going to use elimination and eliminate the y. So I'm going to multiply this bottom one by a 4. So I'm going to rewrite the top one, negative 4x plus 4y equals 0. And then negative 12x minus 4y equals 16. So then that'd be negative 16x equals 16. Yep. 16, sorry. It's 16x. Negative 4x and negative 12x is negative 16x, sorry. And I'm dividing by negative 16, so my x is negative 1. Then if x is negative 1, x equals negative 1. If x is negative 1, I need to plug it back in. So I'm going to plug it back into the top one. Negative 4x plus 4y equals 0. My x is negative 1. So negative 4 times negative 1 plus 4y equals 0. So that's 4 plus 4y equals 0. Subtract 4, so 4y equals negative 4. Divide by 4. So y is negative 1. So negative 1 comma negative 1. Then let's see. On number 12, Joe opens a drawer containing t-shirts that are 2 white shirts and 3 blue shirts. So I've got 2 white, 3 blue, so 5 total t-shirts. Just organizing myself. Oh, no, I have more. Sorry. These are all shirts. Oh, that's going to be nice. 2 red, 3 gray. If Jed picks a shirt at random, what is the probability he will pick a white or a blue t-shirt? So I want white or blue, which means I'm adding. White is 2 out of 10, because there's 10 total. And then blue looks like it's 3 out of 10. So that's 5 out of 10, which is 1/2. Because I wanted white or blue, that's why I'm adding. Then number 13, you're solving absolute value of x minus 1 equals 14. Some of you are still not showing this correctly. It's x minus 1 equals 14 and x minus 1 equals negative 14. So add 1, so x equals 15. Add 1 here, so x equals negative 13. Some of y'all think it's just x equals plus or minus 14. It's not. X minus 1 equals plus or minus 14. And so you get these two answers, 15 and negative 13. Okay. Then let's see. Number 14, we're going to skip number 14. We'll talk about graphing lines again in geometry, so we're going to skip number 14 right now. Then on 15, the sum of 2 numbers is 48. Their difference is 10. So this is the way that sets up. The sum of 2 numbers is 48. Their difference is 10. Sets up for perfect elimination. Your y's eliminate. 2x equals 58. Divide by 2. So x is 29. And then if x is 29, you plug back in. So 29 plus y equals 48. Subtract 29. So y is 19. And then you want the quotient. The quotient is division, so we're going to put x over y, so 29 over 19. If it was product, you'd multiply them. Here, just making the fraction because it's quotient. Then on 16, you are doing Pythagorean theorem, which some of you are still forgetting to write the formula for Pythagorean theorem, and I'm marking it wrong every time you do, because I told you when we went over this that you need to write it every time. So you've got this triangle that is 12, 16, and c. So you'd have 12 squared plus 16 squared equals c squared. So then this is 144 plus, I'm probably going to mess up on this, so let me just check it. 256 equals c squared. So you add 256 and 144 and get 400 equals c squared, and then you take the square root. So c is 20. So you have to make sure you end up taking the square root there. Then on number 17, let's see. So it's y squared minus 121. This is the difference of 2 squares. How do I know? Because that has a square root, that has a square root. It's only got 2 terms and it's a subtraction. So it factors into conjugates. Y plus 11, y minus 11. So that is how you factor your difference of 2 squares. Then on number 18, you've got the square root of 1 million. So I showed you a shortcut on this when we did this a while back. This is actually, which it'll say on your review, this is actually from lesson 61. Since this is an even amount of zeros, you can just cut them in half. So the square root is 1,000 on number 18. Then number 19 is another one where some of y'all are continuing to mess up on your distance formula. So hopefully I can get it straight for you. First of all, your distance formula is x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 all squared. So my points are 4, 7, and negative 2, 2. And I messed up my distance formula. Squared plus. Okay. A ton of you are forgetting to take the square root at the end. The distance is the square root of this. So we put our x's in. Negative 2 minus 4 all squared plus negative 2 minus 7 all squared. So this is negative 6 squared. Got to be positive 36. Can never be a negative because you're squaring the negative and making it a positive. This is negative 9 squared, which would be 81. So 36 plus 81 is hold on, I think I wrote something wrong. This isn't a negative 2. This second 2 isn't a negative 2. That second 2 is a positive 2. So this would give me negative 5. And then this would be 25. Okay, so again, I wrote the problem wrong. It was 4, 7 and negative 2, 2. So then negative 2 minus 4, that didn't mess up. But then positive 2 minus 7. Positive 2 minus 7 would be negative 5. Negative 6 squared is still 36. Negative 5 squared is still 25. 36 and 25 is 61, and it's the square root of 61. Now you can leave it as the square root of 61. That doesn't simplify any, or you can find the square root. Remember, you do second x squared, put 61 in and hit enter. It's about 7.81 if you want to round it to the nearest hundredth. But don't forget to take that square root in the end. I know I leave it off during this because it's just lazy, but then I don't forget to take the square root. And some of you are forgetting to take the square root. Some of you are taking the square root here and then adding them. That is incorrect. You have to follow order of operations. And the square root symbol is like a set of parentheses. So you do everything underneath it first. Your last step is the square root. The last step is the square root. And then on number 20, you've got the square root of 125 is the length of a rectangle. And the width is the square root of 45. And we want to find the perimeter. So the perimeter is adding all the sides up. So what we want to do on this is, we add the sides up. So square root of 45 plus the square root of 45 is 2 square roots of 45 because there's 2 of them. And 2 square roots of 125 because there's 2 of them. Okay? Or you could see perimeter as 2 times length plus 2 times the width. So 2 length, 2 widths. Now we need to simplify 45. It's 3, 3, and 5. Some of you are messing up on this. You'd put the 5 outside, which is incorrect. You put the doubles on the outside, and there's already a 2 there. So this would become 6 square roots of 5. Then on 125, it's 5 times 5 times 5. So we take a 5 on the outside, leave a 5 on the inside, and 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 square roots of 5. So that would be 16 square roots of 5 feet. Make sure you label it because I labeled it. Okay, so that's the way number 20 works. Again, that's the review for the last test. This is your last review, your last test for this year, actually. So it's the review for test 18. The review and the test are both due this Friday the 15th.